When calculating feeder size for motors and HVAC compressors, it's crucial to understand that the 1.25% rule applies separately to each category. This distinction arises from the different starting characteristics of motors versus compressors. The 1.25% factor is intended to account for the increased current draw during the startup phase. For motors, the calculation uses the motor's full load current, abbreviated FLC. For compressors, the calculation relies on the compressor's rated load current, abbreviated RLC. Let's consider a scenario involving two motors and two compressors. Suppose the largest motor has a full load current of 100 amps, and the largest compressor has a rated load current of 75 amps. To determine the appropriate feeder size, you'll need to apply the 1.25% rule to each of these values independently. For the motors, calculate 1.25% of 100 amps, which equals 1.25 amps. This 1.25 amps is then added to the base 100 amps, resulting in a total of 101.25 amps required for the motor portion of the feeder. For the compressors, calculate 1.25% of 75 amps, which equals 0.94 amps. Adding this 0.94 amps to the base 75 amps yields a total of 75.94 amps required for the compressor portion of the feeder. Therefore, the feeder needs to be sized to accommodate at least 101.25 amps for the motors and 75.94 amps for the compressors. To reiterate, remember that the 1.25% rule is applied to the full load current of the largest motor and to the rated load current of the largest compressor separately. The results are then added to their respective base currents to determine the total current needed for each category. This approach ensures that the feeder is adequately sized to handle the starting current requirements of both motors and compressors. When performing these calculations, it's essential to consult the relevant sections of the National Electrical Code, abbreviated NEC. The NEC provides specific guidelines for motor and compressor feeder sizing, including tables and formulas that may be helpful. Always refer to the latest edition of the NEC to ensure compliance with current regulations. In addition to the 1.25% rule, there may be other factors to consider when sizing a feeder, such as voltage drop, conductor temperature rating, and ambient temperature. Voltage drop refers to the decrease in voltage that occurs along a conductor due to its resistance. Excessive voltage drop can negatively impact the performance of motors and compressors, so it's important to select conductors that are large enough to minimize voltage drop. The conductor temperature rating refers to the maximum temperature that a conductor can withstand without being damaged. The ambient temperature is the temperature of the surrounding environment. Conductors must be selected with a temperature rating that is appropriate for the ambient temperature in which they will be installed. Furthermore, it's important to consider any other loads that may be connected to the feeder, such as lighting, receptacles, or other equipment. Total load on the feeder must not exceed the feeder's ampacity, which is the maximum amount of current that the feeder can safely carry. The ampacity of a conductor is determined by its size, material, insulation type, and installation method. When calculating feeder size, it's always best to err on the side of caution. Oversizing the feeder slightly can provide a safety margin and help to ensure that the feeder is able to handle any unexpected loads or changes in operating conditions. However, it's also important to avoid oversizing the feeder excessively, as this can increase the cost of the installation and may not provide any significant benefits. Finally, remember that electrical work can be dangerous. Always follow safe work practices and consult with a qualified electrician if you have any questions or concerns. Working with electricity can be dangerous and should only be performed by qualified individuals who have been properly trained and equipped. Remember to always energize circuits before working on them and to use appropriate personal protective equipment, abbreviated PPE, such as gloves and eye protection. Double check your calculations. Let's delve a bit deeper into the specifics of motor and compressor feeder sizing. When dealing with motors, the full load current, FLC, is typically found on the motor's nameplate. This value represents the amount of current the motor draws when operating at its rated horsepower and voltage under full load conditions. The 1.25% factor is applied to this FLC value to account for the motor's inrush current during startup. Inrush current can be significantly higher than the FLC, so it's crucial to factor it into the feeder sizing calculation. For compressors, the rated load current, RLC, is also typically found on the compressor's nameplate. This value represents the amount of current the compressor draws when operating at its rated capacity. Similar to motors, compressors also experience a high current draw during startup, so the 1.25% factor is applied to the RLC to account for this. It's worth noting that some compressors may have multiple RLC values listed on their nameplates depending on the operating conditions. In such cases, it's important to use the highest RLC value when calculating the feeder size. In addition to the 1.25% rule, the NEC also requires that the feeder be sized to accommodate the sum of the full load currents of all the motors and compressors connected to it. This is to ensure that the feeder is able to handle the total current draw when all the equipment is operating simultaneously. For example, if you have two motors with FLC of 50 amps and 75 amps respectively, and two compressors with RLC of 40 amps and 60 amps respectively, the feeder must be sized to accommodate at least 50 amps plus 75 amps plus 40 amps plus 60 amps, which equals 225 amps, plus the additional 1.25% factors for the largest motor and compressor. Furthermore, the NEC provides specific tables that list the ampacities of various conductors based on their size, material, insulation type, and installation method. These tables can be used to select the appropriate conductor size for the feeder based on the calculated load current. It's important to select a conductor with an ampacity that is equal to or greater than the calculated load current to ensure that the feeder is able to safely carry the current without overheating. In addition to the conductor size, it's also important to select the appropriate overcurrent protection device, such as a circuit breaker or fuse, for the feeder. The overcurrent protection device is designed to protect the feeder from overloads and short circuits. The size of the overcurrent protection device must be coordinated with the ampacity of the conductor to ensure that it will trip before the conductor overheats. The NEC provides specific guidelines for selecting overcurrent protection devices for motor and compressor feeders. These guidelines take into account the starting characteristics of motors and compressors to ensure that the overcurrent protection device will not trip unnecessarily during startup. When installing the feeder, it's important to follow all applicable codes and regulations. This includes properly grounding the feeder, using approved wiring methods, and ensuring that all connections are tight and secure. Improperly installed feeders can pose a significant safety hazard and may not be able to handle the intended load. It's also important to periodically inspect and maintain the feeder to ensure that it is in good working condition. This includes checking for loose connections, damaged insulation, and signs of overheating. Any problems should be corrected promptly to prevent potential hazards. Let's further elaborate on some practical considerations for motor and compressor feeder sizing. Firstly, understanding the service factor of a motor is important. The service factor indicates the amount of overload a motor can handle for a specified period without damage. Motors with a higher service factor can tolerate larger overloads, which may influence the feeder sizing. Secondly, consider the ambient temperature where the feeder will be installed. Higher ambient temperatures can reduce the ampacity of conductors, requiring larger conductor sizes to compensate for the heat. The NEC provides correction factors for ampacity based on ambient temperature. Thirdly, the type of enclosure housing the feeder conductors can also affect their ampacity. Enclosed conductors may have a lower ampacity compared to conductors in free air due to reduced heat dissipation. Fourthly, voltage drop calculations are crucial, especially for long feeder runs. Excessive voltage drop can cause motors and compressors to operate inefficiently or even fail. The NEC recommends limiting voltage drop to a certain percentage of the nominal voltage. Fifthly, when dealing with multiple motors and compressors on a single feeder, consider the possibility of simultaneous starting. If multiple units are likely to start at the same time, the feeder must be sized to accommodate the combined inrush current. Sixthly, harmonic currents generated by motors and compressors can also affect feeder sizing. Harmonic currents can increase the heating of conductors and equipment, requiring larger conductor sizes and dirting of equipment. Seventhly, consider future expansion when sizing a feeder. If there is a possibility of adding more motors or compressors in the future, it's wise to oversize the feeder to accommodate the additional load. Eighthly, always consult with a qualified electrical engineer or electrician to ensure that the feeder is properly sized and installed. They can perform the necessary calculations and select the appropriate components to meet the specific requirements of the application. Ninthly, remember to keep detailed records of all feeder sizing calculations and component selections. This documentation can be helpful for future maintenance and troubleshooting. Tenthly, when replacing an existing feeder, carefully evaluate the existing load and any potential changes in the load requirements. Simply replacing the feeder with the same size may not be adequate if the load has increased or if the equipment has been upgraded. Now, let's touch upon some common mistakes to avoid when sizing motor and compressor feeders. One common mistake is failing to account for the 1.25% factor for the largest motor and compressor. This can result in an undersized feeder that is not able to handle the starting current. Another mistake is using the wrong full load current or rated load current values. Always refer to the motor or compressor nameplate for the correct values. A further mistake is neglecting to consider voltage drop, especially for long feeder runs. This can lead to reduced performance and premature failure of equipment. Another mistake is ignoring the ambient temperature and enclosure dirting factors. This can result in overheating of conductors and equipment. Furthermore, failing to properly coordinate the overcurrent protection device with the conductor and opacity is a mistake. This can lead to nuisance tripping or failure to protect the feeder from overloads and short circuits. Another mistake is not following the NEC guidelines for motor and compressor feeder sizing. The NEC provides specific requirements that must be followed to ensure safety and proper operation. Also, assuming that the existing feeder size is adequate without performing proper calculations is a mistake. The existing feeder may have been undersized or may not be suitable for the current load. Neglecting to consider future expansion when sizing a feeder is a mistake. This can result in the need to replace the feeder in the future when additional equipment is added. Another mistake is not consulting with a qualified electrical engineer or electrician. They can provide valuable expertise and guidance to ensure that the feeder is properly sized and installed. Finally, failing to document the feeder sizing calculations and component selections is a mistake. This can make it difficult to maintain and troubleshoot the system in the future. To summarize, accurately calculating the feeder size for motors and compressors is paramount for ensuring electrical safety, efficient operation, and the longevity of equipment. By diligently applying the 1.25% rule, considering voltage drop, ambient temperature, enclosure dirting, and adhering to NEC guidelines, you can avoid common mistakes and create a reliable and code-compliant electrical system. Always prioritize safety and consult with qualified professionals when in doubt.